with Elon Musk, who keeps blowing up the big, beautiful bill's enormous price tag and who now faces a deportation threat from President Trump. White House officials insist Musk is not a factor influencing House Republicans.
Florida looking to deputize National Guard members to help serve as immigration judges for detainees at a new migrant holding site. Dana Marie McNichol reporting from Miami.
The president's message was very clear. The only way out of Alligator Alcatraz is deportation, but that is going to take a large team of immigration judges. They have 17 Florida National Guard judges standing by, and the approval process was seemingly simple. For months, Governor Ron DeSantis has looked for the approval of the federal government to send Florida National Guard Judge Advocate General Corps officers to act as immigration judges. Now, unlike federal judges, immigration judges work under the direction of the U.S. Attorney General.
The U.S. is reportedly halting some weapons shipments and military support to Ukraine due to depleting American stockpiles. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says he understands the U.S. concern, but insists that Ukraine needs weapons and support in order to defend itself from Russia.
Europeans, in the meantime, are really stepping up. They have now committed $35 billion for Ukraine this year. So when it comes to the burden shift from the US to Europe, that's taking place. But we cannot do without the practical US support.
Brian Koberger, the man who stabbed 4 University of Idaho students to death in 2022, is expected to plead guilty to all charges today. Jonathan Hunt has the latest from Boise, Idaho, with more reaction from victims' families.
At least one of those families is furious about this plea deal, furious they didn't have more input, furious Koberger will not be required to explain his actions, just to admit guilt and then await sentencing. Now that sentence will be the rest of his life in jail, but had he gone to trial and been found guilty, Koberger might have faced the death penalty. So the deal to save his life prompted Kaylee Gonsalves' sister Aubrey to write, quote, Brian Koberger facing a life in prison means he would still get to speak, form relationships, and engage with the world. Meanwhile, our loved ones have been silenced forever.
A well-known Southern Baptist pastor is weighing in on a controversy that has blown up between Texas Senator Ted Cruz and podcast host Tucker Carlson on what it means to support Israel.
Whether to stand out from the crowd or because he believes in isolationism, Tucker Carlson has not been shy about his disagreement with U.S. actions in the Middle East. It came to a head a couple of weeks ago when the talk host had Texas Senator Ted Cruz on his podcast, and Carlson went so far as to question the U.S. support of Israel.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
So you're quoting a Bible phrase, you don't have context for it, and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Pastor Robert Jeffress of First Baptist Dallas took a couple of minutes 2 Sundays ago to weigh in.
Well, Tucker, let me help you out. To support Israel, first of all, means to support Israel's right to exist.
He notes some of the Muslim countries surrounding Israel and all the terrorists in the region do not agree to that. And he says there's a second requirement.
To support Israel means to support Israel's right to exist in her land.
He says Israel occupied the land at least 3,000 years ago. It was theirs because God gave it to them.
Those who oppose Israel are always on the wrong side of history, and most importantly, they're on the wrong side of God.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Key.
The American Family Association's mission is to inform, equip, and activate individuals to strengthen the moral foundations of our culture. We also support the church. Our goal is to be a leading organization in biblical worldview training for cultural transformation. AFA believes that all men and women, whether in private or public, should be free to exercise their faith without hindrance from the government.
Thank you for standing with the American Family Association. We inform.
Religious freedom is about people of faith being able to live out their faith, live out their convictions, no matter where they are.
We equip.
Sacred honor is the courage to speak truth, to live out your free speech.
We also rejoice in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you with us on today's edition of the show. It's the week of July 4th, celebrating America's independence, 249 years. And the only reason I can do the math that quickly is because next year is 250. 2026 is 250. With 1776 being our year of independence. And Bobby, the Trump administration is all in on the 250th anniversary.
Should be good. I hear they made the location that was pretty friendly to the administration, but I can't exactly remember where that location will be.
Yeah, the Rushmore-ish.
Are they going to do it again?
I think they're going to...
Revisit it?
I think they're going to do something at Rushmore. I don't know whether it'll be...
Besides put his face on Rushmore one day?
Yeah, right. The anniversary or what, but I'm sure Rushmore will play a role.
I would think so. It'd be a good location for it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what's going on this week. And as we remember America's independence, let's not forget the thousands of American lives that have been lost in war over the 2 centuries plus. And the fact that without patriots before us, we would not have the freedom and the country that we have today. So people sacrificed for us for future generations. And we need more of that, honestly. We need more of that type stewardship and patriotism. And look, patriotism isn't a bad word. The left tries to make patriotism a toxic word, a negative word. They say, oh, you can't be a Christian and a patriot at the same time. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. Ask our founding fathers about that. Ask George Washington about that. So being a patriot just simply means that you love your country and you love your fellow man. And loving your fellow man is actually biblical. Love your neighbor as yourself. There's a lot of our founding precepts that is rooted in Christianity. That's a fact. That's where we get a lot of these value sets from. Proverbs 15, speaking of value sets, Proverbs 15, verse 1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. That's our scripture for today, Proverbs chapter 1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. Well, President Trump is hoping for the one big beautiful bill to cross his desk in the next few days. His goal has been July 4th. I don't know if that will happen. We'll see. I don't want to say it won't happen, but here's where we are. The House passed their version, pretty good version, pretty happy with it. It defunded Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers through Medicaid reimbursements for up to 10 years. It's a big deal. Defunding abortion providers for 10 years is a big pro-life victory. The original House version fully funds the entire border wall. The House version continued and extended in permanency the President Trump tax cuts from 2017. The House version increased the child tax credit from $2,000 to $2,500 annually per child. And I could go on and on and on. It also has some provisions on AI. It has some provisions on, which I do have some concerns about the AI topic, but it has provisions on American manufacturing. It financially incentivizes American reshoring of America's manufacturing base and industries. And so there was a lot of good there. But just the fact that we're actually talking about defunding abortion providers in law is a big, big victory. Funding the entire border wall is a huge victory. So I don't want to lose perspective, because if you listen to some, including Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, this is a terrible bill. I mean, even Elon Musk, this is a terrible bill. This is the worst bill ever. No, it's not. I've seen a lot of worse bills. This bill has a lot of conservative victories in it. And I don't want us to forget that. And President Trump is right when he says that, and Stephen Miller, that, maybe conservatives just don't know how to win anymore. We're so used to oppose, fight, that when we're in charge, we don't even know what to do. And then we have these in-house fights. But where the legislation is now is it has just left the Senate as of yesterday, and it's heading back over to the House. And the Senate did make some changes, so let's be honest about that. Let's note the changes that I'm aware of. The Senate removed or reduced the Planned Parenthood and abortion provider defunding from 10 years to 1 year, which I think it's better than nothing, but it's still not strong enough. I don't know. That doesn't even make sense. You move it from 10 years to 1 year. That's going to put a small dent in Planned Parenthood's coffers. They're a multi-billion-dollar so-called nonprofit. And so I think that's weak. I think it's weak. I'm not happy about it. 10 years to 1 year? Are you kidding me? Nonetheless, the defunding of abortion providers is still in the Senate version that is now headed back to the House of Representatives. The spending cuts are roughly the same. The debt ceiling is still being increased. The border wall is still being funded. So a lot of the other main provisions are still intact, and we'll see where it goes from here. But that's where we are. The Senate has, the Republicans have blamed the parliamentarian for stripping out some of the conservative provisions in the legislation. And that's their fall guy, or in this case, their fall gal, because it's a female parliamentarian. Let me just go on, well, we've got a few minutes left. Let me just give you a little rant about the parliamentarian. But before I do, let's listen to clip 2. Here is a response to this parliamentarian role and position in the Senate and how it shouldn't be around. Clip 2.
Florida Congressman Greg Steube joins me now. Congressman, a number of Republicans are saying that, the parliamentarian should either be overruled or even fired as a result of what's happened on the big, beautiful bill. Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I had called for her to be fired. I don't think that one person who's unelected, who got appointed over a decade ago, should be the one deciding what stays in and what doesn't. Lawmakers who are elected by their constituents across the country should make those decisions. We have the majority in the House. We have the majority in the Senate. And oh, by the way, she was appointed by Harry Reid, a Democrat. So why wouldn't Thune want to replace her with a Republican appointee and a Republican majority in the Senate? So we've certainly called for that. Thune has said he's not going to do that. So they're going to move forward. But unfortunately, she has struck a number of very conservative provisions and policy provisions that were attached to these different spending provisions in the one big beautiful bill, which has made it very difficult from a cost perspective, because the amount of savings that we were saving on the House bill that we sent to the Senate is much less than it was before because of the cuts that she made over on the Senate side.
There you have it. The parliamentarian, here's how this works, folks. All right. The parliamentarian is just like it's a referee hired by the Senate. All right. It's an office concocted by the Senate. It is not constitutional. It hasn't always been there. And the Senate has these arcane rules that they go by. And this has really become the problem, all right? So if we want to talk about problems, this is, when it comes to Congress, this is the problem, all right? The problem is that the Senate has created themselves, this isn't coming from an external force, the Senate has created all these jumbled up rules and made it to where doing business in the Senate is overly complicated. And if you talk to the Senate, and we've talked to the Senate about this, and we've talked to senators about this, here's what their response is going to be. I can just tell you. And I can play the clips. The Senate is the most deliberative body on the earth. The Senate is the longest standing institution in America. The Senate is intended by our founders to be a slow-working body, a deliberative body that represents the whole of America. They go through all these fancy words and these virtuous sentences about how great the Senate is, and the Senate this, and the Senate that, and the Senate can do no wrong, and the Senate's here to save the day. The reality is the Senate has created all this jumbled up, confusing, garbage rules, including the office of the parliamentarian, so that they don't have to make hard decisions. And the same thing happened, let's remember, the same thing happened with the repealing Obamacare under Trump 1. Remember the emphatic McCain thumbs down? That bill got weakened through the parliamentarian. And so the Senate created this office of the parliamentarian to be like this referee and interpreter of the rules. And then whenever the Senate doesn't want to make hard decisions, they just say, well, the parliamentarian said we can't do this. What? The parliamentarian? Who elected the parliamentarian? Well, we did. Okay, so if the parliamentarian says you can't do this and a majority want to do it, then you override the parliamentarian, or you just fire the parliamentarian. It doesn't matter to me. And so our system of government has been so corrupted, so broken, and so mangled up that the way it's operating today, I can tell you 100% is not how our founding fathers intended it. And they can come up with all these fancy excuses about how great the Senate is, and the Senate is deliberative, and the Senate is smart, and the Senate is blah, blah, blah. But the reality is the Senate has become the place where everything goes to become worse. They couldn't, unless they want to get something done for their own self-interest, then they can get 60 votes. Remember, we are where we are, where we have to go through this dumb reconciliation process where you got to get 51 votes and you can only do it once a year. And you and I have to spend who knows how many hours trying to, if we want to truly understand this, we have to spend all this time trying to understand what on earth are these rules? Who is the parliamentarian? How come some bills need 60, some bills need 51 votes? What on earth are these folks doing? Our founding fathers did not intend for it to be this complicated. Here's what should happen. And my statement on what should happen and how things should be is applicable whether Joe Biden's in the White House, Nancy Pelosi's in the speakership, or Donald Trump's in the White House, and Mike Johnson's in the speakership. I don't care who's in charge. This is how it should work. Legislation, specifically spending, has to originate in the House of Representatives per the Constitution. The House passes legislation with a simple majority, which is roughly 215, 216, maybe 218. There's 435, so you divide that by 2. The Senate passes the same legislation, goes to the Senate. This is the process per the Constitution. And the Senate passes the legislation with a simple majority, not 60 votes. That's not what the Constitution says. With a simple majority, 51 votes in the Senate. If both chambers agree on the legislation, it goes to the president's desk. If the president signs it, it's law. End of story. There is nothing in the Constitution, unless you're talking impeachment, about needing a supermajority or 60 plus votes. None of that is in the Constitution. You get 51% in the House, 51% in the Senate, and the president signs it. End of discussion. And you can give me all the apocalyptic scenarios about, well, if the Democrats were in charge, they would repeal the Second Amendment with a simple majority. Okay, let's do it. Let's see how it goes.
Then Azariah the priest entered after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord, valiant men. My name is Abraham Hamilton III, and this is the Hamilton Minute. Uzziah was a king of Judah who'd enjoyed tremendous political and military success. He presided over a time of robust material prosperity and massive infrastructural innovation. He was so successful that it went to his head. He sought not only the monarchy, but the priesthood too. When his ambition threatened the integrity of God's house, Azariah and 80 other priests of the Lord withstood him. Valor is a term used in Scripture to convey courage in the face of warlike physical hostility. That is exactly what we need today. Men of God, men of valor.
Listen each weekday from 5 to 6 p.m. Central for the Hamilton Corner with Abraham Hamilton III, Public Policy Analyst for the American Family Association.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
Hi, my name's Neil. I have some advice for you if you've been trying to break free from credit card debt. You can start by doing what I did. Get your bills together and call Trinity Debt Management. Trinity is dedicated to helping people like me become debt-free. When I called, my first experience was a feeling of relief. My counselor was kind, and best of all, she didn't judge me. In just a few minutes, she helped me figure out a plan that consolidated all my bills into one lower monthly payment. This substantially reduced my high interest rates and put me on the road to success. In the end, I saved thousands in interest, and today, my credit card debt is a thing of the past.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-788-1813.
My name is Neil. Take it from someone who's been there. Call Trinity and become debt-free for keeps.
1-800-788-1813.
Hello, everybody. I'm Walker Wildmon, Vice President here at American Family Association. Well, my brother Wesley and I were following in the footsteps of my dad, our dad, and my grandfather, Don Wildmon, by leading tours to places of the Bible. And so this next March, we're going to be going to Greece and following the footsteps of Paul. So we're so very excited about this trip, and we'll hope you'll join us. Here's a couple of the places that we're going to visit. We're going to visit Philippi, Thessalonica, Corinth, and all the various Greek cities that you read about in the book of Acts and Paul's epistles. And so you can find the dates, locations, pricing, and much more over at wildmangroup.com. You can also find out more about my dad's trip and my mom over to Israel. They're going to be in Israel in March as well. These trips are back-to-back, and you can do both if you would like. All the information about Footsteps of Paul, Greece, Israel, all of these trips in March of 2026, just visit wildmangroup.com.
At the Core podcasts are available at afr.net. Now, back to At the Core on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to The Core here on American Family Radio. Well, as you just heard there, we'll be going to Greece and Israel in the spring. I know that seems like forever away, but it's really not. We're already halfway through the year. And so in March, we'll be going to Israel and Greece back-to-back, 2 separate tours, though. So if you want to go on one or the other, that's fine. And if you want to do both, you can do that as well. So we'll be going to Israel and then Greece, with the Greece trip being a new trip. And we'll be trekking the footsteps of Paul there in Greece, going to multiple cities that you read about in the Bible and studying all about Paul's footsteps. So that's going to be in the spring and March of 2026. If you want to check that out and look at the itinerary and all the information, you can go over to wildmangroup.com, wildmangroup.com. Well, I do want to introduce our next guest. Richard Harris is with us, and he's Executive Director at Truth and Liberty Coalition, and he's with us now to talk about immigration and the effects it has on our country. Hey, Richard, welcome to the program.
Great to be with you, Walker. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, Richard, tell us a little bit about your background and some of the work you guys do, and then we'll jump right into the topic.
Sure, absolutely. Well, my background is professionally trained as an attorney, practiced law for over 20 years until the Lord called us to kind of leave that behind to pursue a call to ministry, and directed us to Andrew Womack Ministries based here in Colorado. My wife and I and our kids came out, and we went through 3 years of Bible college, and that was an amazing, life-changing experience, but then began to connect with Andrew with regard to his desire to influence the culture and government, and we launched a government school at our Bible college here, Charis Bible College, and then also launched Truth and Liberty Coalition and Truth and Liberty Foundation, which our goal, our mission is to educate, unify, and mobilize the body of Christ to stand for truth in the public square. much like American Family. We're kind of in this together and trying to equip the church to, be salt and light in our culture. So we've got a program that we do. We mobilize voters. We have a resources center on our website, and try real hard to promote and collaborate with other organizations so that the church can understand all the resources that are out there, like all the great stuff that you guys are doing and everything else. So that's what we're about.
Richard, the topic of illegal immigration obviously has been a very prominent topic in the last decade or so, specifically with President Trump's campaigns in 2015 and now with his second term as president. And so, and this issue polls up there in the top 3 or 4 at least, I would say, that is immigration. So the immigration, is this really a crisis? Is this really the problem that conservatives say it is?
Well, I'd say absolutely it is. We don't even really know, Walker, how many illegal aliens are in our country. Best estimates put it at somewhere between 12 and 15 million people have crossed our borders illegally. And the problem is this isn't really a racist thing or anything like that. The problem is that if you don't have borders, you don't have a country, right? There's no such thing as a nation without borders. Because if you don't know where your country starts and another one begins, then what's the point of all of it? And furthermore, without border enforcement, you really don't have any security. It's like leaving your front door open and unlocked all night long, even when you're away on vacation, and you don't know who's going to come in and rob you, steal you, attack you. There's no difference. So we have now in America, I think in 2024, it's estimated there were 35,000 people who cross the border into America who are convicted of crimes already in the countries they came from. These are rapists, murderers, thieves, drug dealers, wife beaters, people with domestic crimes, just anything you can think of, not to mention now thousands of Chinese nationals. We don't know what they're doing here, why they came. I mean, we can suspect with good reason. Right? Not to mention thousands of people from countries that sponsor terrorism. And we can only imagine what they're up to. So yes, it's a crisis. And I just want to say thank God for Donald Trump and a leader who has the courage and conviction to take a stand and to enforce the laws that are on the books to keep America safe. And it has nothing to do with hating other countries or cultures. It has to do with being the government fulfilling its responsibility to defend our liberties.
Let's get into the reasoning behind where we are today, and much of this is going to be, theorizing or predicting or trying to read into people's intentions, but just looking at the crisis that it is, and then just kind of walking away really isn't helpful in understanding what's going on here. So there's basically a couple theories out there that one of these has to be true. Maybe it's a mix of a few, and it probably depends on who we're talking about when it comes to motives and intentions. But just this open our doors, let under Biden now over 10 million in. The Trump administration, they actually say it's higher than that. They've been using 15 and 20 million under Biden, which is astronomical over the course of 4 years. Who knows what the real number is? It's it's millions. Let's just say that. But what is this about? Labor? Is this about cheap labor? Is this about Democrat votes? What's the best theory to operate under as far as why on earth our leaders would allow this type of invasion at this level for this sustained period of time?
Yeah, boy, that's a great question. To some extent, we're grasping in the dark because patriotic Americans and God-fearing Americans don't think this way. And so we're trying to figure this out, is why are they doing this to our country? Well, I think one of the primary things we need to understand is the globalist agenda of the Marxist elite. So open borders is an agenda item of the Great Reset. It's an agenda item of Davos because they want to eliminate the nation states as sovereign entities so that they can establish They're Marxist and environment. It's Marxism, environmentalism, and LGBTism, and then the CRT. All of that mixed into this left-wing milieu of satanic doctrine, all coming from the globalist elite, and that's, I think, the most important thing. The second thing is that the leftists in America realize that it works to their political advantage. And yes, illegal immigrants are voting in America's elections. And so that's it. But even more so, even if you take the fraud element out of our elections, what happens with 15 million illegals concentrated in blue states is the census count goes up for those blue states, which means they have more representation in Congress. If you want to think of it, Walker, it's kind of like when the nation was founded and the slave states wanted to count their slaves as full human beings but didn't want to let them vote. It's a kind of a similar thing here. The corrupt left wants their numbers as high as possible. And so we know from analysis now that in actuality, the Democrats would have somewhere between 3 to 5 fewer representatives in the House than they would if our borders had been closed. And so, it's just really criminal when you think about it. It is seditious, it's traitorous, it's a rejection of their duty to the country. But I think those are the two main ideas. And then the economics of it. So if I can just finish this answer, this has been going on for a long time, as you pointed out. And you might remember when George Bush was president, the son, George W. Bush, he said, "Oh, we need to have amnesty because so we can these folks are coming in because they'll do jobs Americans won't do." Right? This whole idea that we can't get Americans to do the work that the illegals are doing. This is the big corporations are looking at it as well and saying, hey, this does kind of lower wage costs, and so we like that too. So we're going to align with the left on this deal, and that is also wrong thinking as well, because if we control our immigration, then what that is going to mean, Americans will do the work that needs to be done. It's just that they're going to get paid more.
Yeah.
And so we're going to have a higher standard of living, a higher wage for blue-collar workers in America. We've already seen this. It's already happening. I saw last week that blue-collar wages are on the way up under Trump, and I think it's directly related to his enforcement of immigration.
Yeah, I agree. And the another concern here, once again, we're talking to Richard Harris with the Truth and Liberty Coalition about illegal immigration and the effects it has on our country. Another thing, Richard, is that with AI and robotics, we're heading into a different era than we've been in the last 50 years. Meaning, the labor requirements are going to change. The sheer number of people in the workforce is going to go down as far as the need there. Now, there'll always be different niches in the economy where you'll always have to have humans, at least for the foreseeable future. But my point is, this couldn't have happened at a worse time. Meaning we've got over 10 million illegal immigrants just in the recent 4 or 5 years that are in our country, assuming most of them are working in some way through defying the work requirement laws that we have on the books, and they're working illegally in the United States. And then we've got AI coming on, and Americans are currently getting laid off. I mean, Microsoft just laid off 9,000 employees, in part because of AI. I just think that this has the potential to be a real problem beyond what it already is today with AI and robotics, where if we don't cut off the spigot and then get the illegals out of the country, then you're going to have illegal immigrants without jobs and Americans without jobs.
Well, that's a great point. I can't say that I've seen any hard and fast studies on it, but it makes total sense. What it does, it's glutting the labor market in our country and driving wages down. And, people are suffering today, Walker, because of Biden's inflation. I mean, just think every dollar that comes in to your household is worth only 80% of what it was before Joe Biden was president. And without an increase in wages to compensate for that, people have to give up. They have to sacrifice and do without, and it's just insanity. It's common sense. We need to enforce our immigration laws. And, I believe Americans will do the work that needs to be done. And if we get the illegals out, we'll get paid a decent wage for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I don't buy into this theory that we've got to have illegal immigrants to do the cheap labor. I'm just not buying into that, and that you can't find Americans to do the job. I don't think that's true. Maybe it's true in some instances, but we've got several million working age men on the couch that are out of the workforce through their own volition, not through because they can't find a job. Well, no, it is because they can't find a job, but it's not because they're disabled or something like that. So there's a lot of labor on the sidelines that you could bring back in, legal labor from American workers that you could bring back into the workforce. And with the advancement of technology and robotics and manufacturing, the work that we're doing in the future is not going to be nearly as manually intensive as the work we've done in the past. So my point is one American worker is going to be able to do more than they could have in the past just because of the advancements in manufacturing. So there's a lot of potential here, and the wage growth, to your point, it will help. If we can achieve that, it will help take back what was lost during COVID and the last 5 years of inflation that has just eaten away at American wages. And I think this has to happen. And I think President Trump, I think it's going to take more than 4 years, so we're going to need successive leadership in the White House to keep this stuff going. So very good points, Richard. Tell our folks how they can read more about your work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can just go to our website. It's truthandliberty.net and find about what's going on here and everything we're doing. And be sure to sign up for our newsletter there, and we'll keep you posted on everything that's going on, and you can get our blogs and articles and everything else. So also encourage folks, if you'd like to watch our show, that's every Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Of course, you can check out the archives on our website and podcasts and social media as well.
All right. Thanks, Richard. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
All right. There you have it. That's Richard Harris with the Truth and Liberty Organization. I'm thankful that President Trump is conducting deportations at the rate that he is. I'm thankful that he's in the White House now. This bill, folks, it funds the full border wall. It funds the entire remainder of the border wall across the entire southern border. So it's a very, very big deal on this topic that we're talking about. And the mass deportations have to happen. This has to happen. And this is a matter of saving our country from complete and utter ruin. And if you want to have two basic reasons, compelling reasons why mass deportations must happen, the first one is that Americans need these jobs. American workers need these jobs. The second thing is that the illegal immigration is an absolute drain on our entire benefits system. Our entire safety net and welfare programs are all being sucked dry by illegal immigrants. And if you think illegal immigrants are not on our welfare programs, where have you been, and is your head in the sand? Joe Biden was giving out Social Security numbers to illegal immigrants. That's a fact. And when you get a Social Security number, that's your magic card to sign up for benefits. And if you think every illegal immigrant is this hardworking, honest, do-gooder, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. And I have a little bit of disrespect at the mere thought of someone trespassing into our country. That's not respectable. And so this rosy picture of all illegal immigrants are these sweet, innocent, poor people from Central and South America. No, that's not the case, folks. That is a false picture.
I'll do some stand-up comedy, Abe will do some preaching, Tim will MC the whole thing, and I'm really excited about it. The Weekend with AFA is a chance for our supporters to get better acquainted with the people and ministry you're supporting.
It's a Weekend with AFA, Thursday, October 2nd through Saturday, October 4th in Tupelo, Mississippi. Speakers will include Abraham Hamilton III, Jenna Ellis, Tim Barton, Tim Wildmon, and more. Register at afa.net/weekend. When you hear this
is American Family News.
You know what follows is the truth. Your news from a Christian perspective.
Hundreds of teachers are going to have to walk into that school building, and they are forced to swallow political ideology that in many cases violates their very faith and conscience.
If you miss it at the top of the hour, American Family News podcasts are available at afn.net. And sign up for our daily news brief at afn.net.
Hi, I'm Jan Harper. If you are a pastor's wife, come be encouraged and renewed as you share your challenges and stresses unique to pastors and their wives.
The AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat is coming October 28th through the 30th. You're invited to join us at Pickwick Landing State Park in Counce, Tennessee for 3 days of encouragement, renewal, and worship. Once again, Brother Bert Harper, AFA Director of Family and Pastoral Ministries, will host the retreat along with his wife Jan. Our special speaker will be J.J. Jasper of American Family Radio. If you've attended in the past, we'd love to see you again. And if you've never experienced a fishbowl retreat, we especially invite you to be refreshed and renewed. The per-couple admission price includes lodging, meals, and materials. Visit repairingthefoundations.net to learn more and register. That's repairingthefoundations.net.
The AFA Pastors and Wives Fishbowl Retreat. We'd love to see you there.
What started as an ordinary day turned into a nightmare for Patricia in Alaska. She found a biological man shaving in the women's locker room at Planet Fitness. When she reported it, the manager defended it. The corporate office called it part of their judgment-free zone. Then they canceled Patricia's membership. She spoke up, and she was right to. But this confusion exists because the world has lost its moral compass. Without Scripture and the gospel, chaos reigns. Believers must boldly share truth. Yes, call out sin, but don't forget, everybody needs the gospel. Addicts, adulterers, and yes, LGBTQ people. No one is beyond God's grace. Don't let a hostile world silence you. The gospel brings hope. Speak it with boldness and love.
This is At the Core on American Family Radio with your host, Walker Wildman.
Welcome to The Core here on American Family Radio. Glad to have you with us for this last segment. Well, I don't know if any of you have begun reading about and consuming information on artificial intelligence. But this technology is as advanced and serious and important as the people say it is, meaning I'm talking about the pundits and the media, etc. When I first started hearing about it, I thought it was overhyped. I thought, yeah, this is going to be another technology, but it's going to be like the phone. It's going to be like the internet, and we'll just adopt it. It'll be just part of life. It'll make things convenient. But the more I'm studying up on AI, this is unlike anything humanity has ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration. Because you can look at the electricity, you can look at the creation of electricity, the creation of the motor vehicle, the creation of the printing press, the creation of the internet, the creation of the mobile device. And yes, AI has a lot of similarities to those things, but the job displacement here is what I think is non-comparable to previous technology innovations. And to that point, here's just some stats. 41% of employers worldwide intend to reduce their workforce because of AI in the next 5 years. One report predicts that AI could replace more than 50% of tasks performed by market research analysts and sales representatives. And AI will create jobs. That's a fact. So there will be some offset there. But what concerns me the most is, well, twofold. The job displacement is a concern, but I think that that reality is going to come slower than people project. I don't think it's going to be as fast. I think the job displacement is going to be more gradual. But it will happen. There will be job displacement because of this, and there will be new jobs created as well. But the dilemma and what I can't wrap my mind around is the moral side of this. Because there's let's just call it the amoral side of this, of just like any technology, it can be used for good, it can be used for bad, it can be helpful, it can be harmful. But the moral dilemma that we're going to face as a nation, because we're trying to be the AI leader of the world. That's what President Trump has said he's going to try to do, is be the AI leader of the world. My concern is there's not enough moral people that are leading in this space. I was listening to a podcast, and there was a gentleman by the name of Andrew Wang. He's a CEO of an AI company. And he was talking about implanting computer chips into people's brains casually. He was casually talking about that. Alexander Wang is an American billionaire entrepreneur. He's co-founder and former CEO of Scale AI. And he was on this podcast just casually talking about, through Neuralink, which is a Elon Musk company, and through other companies that are in the space, that eventually we'll just casually be able to implant chips into people's brains to store memories, and then how companies can hack people's brains to implant false memories that never happened and shape the way people think about things. It was very sci-fi, and it's almost unbelievable. Part of me wants to think that'll just never happen, but the technology is advancing so quickly. And Neuralink, to use an example, Neuralink has made so much progress that they have these trials going on where people are able to control things outside of their body using their brain by sending signals. Meaning you control a computer screen, you control a wheelchair, you control a mobile device, etc. They're currently doing that right now. And when you look at people like Elon Musk, and I'm just using names for examples because I don't like to talk theoretical and without specifics, so I'm giving specific examples. When you look at Elon Musk, he's done a lot of good. And he helped President Trump get elected. He is very much a kind of pro-freedom person. He clearly doesn't like the cancel culture. He appreciates America's system of government and our economic system. So there's a lot of good there. So this is not a bash Elon Musk hour. But what concerns me about Musk, and it should concern all of us, is that he has no set moral value system. He's kind of a technocrat, if you will. He's just kind of this technology nerd who's very smart, multi-billionaire, has created multiple successful companies. So clearly he's got something going right here. But there doesn't seem to be boundaries on where we take the technology. And this is what concerns me, is when all you're looking at is dollar bills and how much revenue can X company bring in through this technology, folks, that is dangerous. That is very, very dangerous. And in this legislation, in this one big beautiful bill, there's a provision. And if I don't talk about this, I would be very dishonest. There's a provision in the bill that puts a 10-year moratorium on any AI regulations at the state level. It puts a 10-year pause on any AI regulations at the state level. Now, the proponents of that are going to say, well, we don't need to stifle innovation. We don't need to throw up a bunch of red tape in the AI realm. And I sympathize with that because government does seem to meddle around with the private sector and completely mess things up. And so I understand the pro-free market, pro-innovation angle to this AI moratorium. But we have to understand that this prevents states, good conservative states, from putting up any guardrails as far as where AI takes us. And so I just think that at some point, we collectively as a country are going to have leaders that speak into this artificial intelligence revolution that we're in, that is going to happen. There's way too much momentum, there's way too much opportunity, and way too much money at stake here with the AI revolution to abandon it, to not lean into it. But it's very concerning to me that the morals of this are not being discussed as much as I think they should. And so, Bobby, I want to get your thoughts. When you think of AI, my position over the last year has been, I don't think it's, well, let me be careful here. It concerns me. I'm not going to place a moral absolute here. It concerns me when humans are replaced by robots. But that's not a new phenomenon, right? We've had through manufacturing and robotics and technology and the internet, humans being replaced or not needed as much because of the advancement of technology is not a new thing. This has been around since a long time.
Assembly lines.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I can't act as if this is a new phenomenon. But I think the rate at which this is going to happen, where it's not as if everybody who wants a job can get a job, which is kind of where we are now. Like if you want to work hard with your hands, if you want to earn an honest living in America, and your head's on right, you can go do it. Right.
Absolutely. Again, this is Mike Rose.
Yeah, but what this is going to lead to is displacement at a level where it doesn't matter how much Bobby wants to go get a job and how many places he puts in an application, the jobs just ain't there.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that we're getting into a moral dilemma here.
Yeah, I think so. It's a very, very fine line that's going to have to be tread lightly. The days of, well, I'm just going to go to Friendly's ice cream shop and get a job, as a scoop, and the old pharmacy drink fountain types and that sort of thing. Those jobs are not going to be readily available.
Right.
They're just not. And
those are your entry level jobs.
Yeah, even here in Tupelo, we see that. You go to the Taco Bell, it's all kiosk driven.
Yeah.
You have a couple of folks behind the counter and a couple of folks cooking, but
right.
Again, fast food cooks, there's nothing to keep a robot from going, need this, off it goes. Very simple process.
And what you're talking about is very detrimental to the lower class.
It is, because when you're trying to bring up children in a way that you want them to have a work ethic, you want them to be responsible for what they're doing, it's going to have to be very focused. Their education, whatever form that takes, is going to have to be very focused as to what they want to get into. Around us, we have a lot of furniture manufacturing here, but for how long? How long before that becomes robotized?
Yeah.
So it's going to be something where the parents are going to have to be parents, and children are going to have to stand up and be accounted for, and be accountable to themselves and their families.
Yeah.
Of what they are going to do as they become adulting.
You know what this could bring back, Bobby, now that we're talking about it? This could revitalize the homestead model.
Amen. Very much so.
Which was a thing up until just over the last 100 years. It became not a thing because we all moved into cities.
That's right.
But the homesteading...
And that was with the advent of the car.
Correct. And here's why I think homesteading could become a thing, and this is a very interesting discussion. When you talk about robotics and basically the need for less humans in a factory, what you're talking about is the consolidation of wealth. Because whoever owns that factory, they're not going to miss a beat, right? No. They're probably going to actually make more money. So when you consolidate wealth and there's less job opportunity, it doesn't necessarily equate to lower quality of life for the people who can't find a job, because as long as they're tethered to someone who does have a job, right? Yeah. Such as the factory owner's family, instead of hiring them on the assembly line, they're just part of the general wealth of the company. But to me, the homestead model could bring back purpose and work ethic and
meeting
morals
of one's needs.
Yes.
And the family at the nucleus of life, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It was a simpler time. It wasn't an easier time.
Yeah.
But it's a simpler time, and you appreciate what you have and what you work for.
And within the homestead could be one or two primary breadwinners.
Yes.
That are, managers at said automated factory or et cetera. Or a local restaurant manager, even though you got robots in the kitchen doing the meal prep.
Yeah,
there's
and
a
that's
human
the key.
manager.
That's a very good point, because what you're getting into is there's always going to be levels of management that are going to be required.
Yeah.
It's the entry level. It's the, pushing the flour and pushing, concrete brick and that sort of thing. It's going to be very difficult. And I'm not saying that they're going to go away part and parcel. It's no different really in the argument of, well, we only take cash. We don't like plastic and so on and so forth. So I think that's going to be kind of similar and parallel for a period of time. But let's face it.
Yeah.
Technology that's how you save money in the workplace. And there are sectors that will not be the case.
Yeah.
And people who say, look, we have a moral responsibility to take care of our employees.
Absolutely.
And that'll continue to be there.
Yeah, I agree. And there will be, to your point, a niche for the human experience.
Amen.
There will be a niche where humans desire fellow human experience, and they don't want a robot bringing their drink to the table.
Agreed.
They want a human to talk to.
And even here in Tupelo, we already have that.
Yeah. Exactly. So this will probably drive a niche market that will thrive, right?
Yes, very much so.
Interesting discussion, folks. And the point is that we need to be having these moral discussions around AI, because we're going to have our lawmakers writing regulations. Every industry has regulations. Trust me, that's government. And AI will have regulations. So we need to make sure that the regulations that are in place are regulations that put the human experience first. Why? Because we're created in the image of God. Robots are not created in the image of God, and God gave us dominion, not robots.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.